start by saying thank you for the opportunity. This has become, increasingly volatile. We used to be afraid of wire fraud, right? Wire fraud was our big scam, our big, issue to worry about. And now this land fraud or vacant land fraud, you sometimes hear it called, or, seller impersonation, deed fraud. It has all different kinds of names, but essentially what it is that there are fraudsters out there impersonating the true owner of land. And generally speaking, it's vacant land or unoccupied land, like a second home. It's not occupied by the actual true owner. So maybe a second home, a rental property, an investment property. I think most of the time that we're seeing this, it's actually a vacant land, just a raw piece of land. And you've got these fraudsters that are really smart, and they're using all of the data that's available on Google, on the internet, on tax records. They can find this land out where the owners aren't there, or maybe the owners are listed as being in, another country. They're scoping this out. They're smart. And I would say at the outset, just like Google is their friend, it needs to be our friend as well.
Yeah. So talking proactively, what are red flags that we should look for?
Red flags are, there's several. Vacant land, automatic red flag now. Quick closing. The seller, we're going to say the purported seller, the fraudster, I really should call him at this point, right? They want to close quickly. It's usually all cash, terms, no financing, usually less than, fair market value, is what they're listing it for. So it will go quickly, before they get caught. Some of the other red flags would be, I feel like there's so many. Oh, usually it's property that's free of any mortgages or any liens. So they're able to find this out easily by doing a search at the Registry of Deeds, whether there's any mortgages or liens, because that would complicate this if the property did have liens. And also look for, the seller is listed as out of state, out of country. Those are really your red flags. And another issue too is that, and this is a red flag, but it's also a way, and I know we're going to get into this as well, as a way of being proactive, is if you are looking at the tax record and the seller's address shown where the bills are being sent to does not match where your purported seller is saying their address is, that's a red flag, and you can check that out right at the outset. It's too important, and I really don't want to, miss any of these. So I have a little sheet in front of me that I'm looking at, but I think we touched upon this, seller in a rush to close, records show the owner's address to be outside of the US. Oh, biggest one. I don't know how I missed this one. The purported owner doesn't want to ever meet in person. Everything is done by email. They want to be able to sign their documents by email. They don't even want to use RON, remote online notarization. Everything is done by email. No contact, no face-to-face, no in-person communications with the realtor. So that's a really big red flag.
Okay, it sounds like, unfortunately, just the world we live in, your default almost should be suspicion. Is that fair to say?
It's fair, and I hate to say it, but it has to be. I know for myself and what I do, I feel badly. There have been some fraudulent transactions, and one in Connecticut in particular, in Fairfield, that made the news. And that was a fraudulent use of a power of attorney. It involved many other red flags. But one of them, which isn't typically a red flag, was the use of a power of attorney that ended up being fraudulent. And now I find myself, you talk about being suspicious, there could be a very valid power of attorney being used, and I'm questioning it. And I don't like that, the paranoia, but you have to have it, right? You have to, when, maybe one of the red flags, you can flush it out a little bit and make sure it's okay. But when you have a bunch of them, when you have now they're compounding, I think you have to go beyond suspicion and take action.
Okay, so we'll finish with a kind of a two-parter, prevention and extraction. So what are steps to be taken to avoid getting into this?
Here's a few things I would do. I would request whether it either be in person or a even if it's a virtual call. Okay, like maybe you use FaceTime or you use Zoom or use some sort of technology to see this person face to face and make sure they can show you their ID on this call. If you've got a fraudster, they're not going to even agree to the call, right? And if you ask them to see their ID, now if you have the real person, they shouldn't have an issue with this. Everybody's heard about this vacant land fraud now. It's in the news. The Attorney General in New Hampshire put something out a couple of months ago. So I mean, you'd have to be, I don't mean to be insulting, but you have to be living under a rock not to hear about it. And so the real true owner shouldn't have an issue with doing, a video call, FaceTime, whatever you want to use to just see that person. You could also Google that seller's name for images, see what they look like. If you can find something online, see if they have a LinkedIn profile, anything like that, right? You can look at visual images of the person and compare them to the person that's on that call with you, but also ask for that ID so that you can see it during the call. The other thing, and I really wish we did this more often, ask the seller for their closing statement from their actual purchase. The fraudster's not going to have that. They're not going to have back in the day when I was, at a title company, we called them the HUD settlement statement, and now they're called the closing disclosure. Ask them for that. That is, to me, a really good step. Now, some people are going to say, I don't have it. I didn't keep my copies. Maybe ask them who did their closing. Ask for the title company. And then the realtor can call that title company and say, hey, listen, title companies are going to be understanding at this point, especially if they then get a call from the actual, at that time, it would have been their buyer, right? Who's now selling, authorizing that title company to release these documents to the realtor. I think people are going to be accommodating to do that. I would do that. I would use Forewarn. I know that's an app that's available out there that you can put a phone number in and it will reveal information about that phone number or whose identity is tied to that phone number. We have a product, Stewart, in conjunction with Notary Cam, has a product called Seller Verify, and you can verify the seller sort of using like this knowledge-based authentication, which if you're familiar with RON, remote online notarization, it's sort of the same technology where you can identify that seller. And so there are definitely ways to do it, but I would say right at the outset, have a video call, some form of a video call.
And as you said, if somebody is legitimate, they would welcome this, especially in the environment that we're in today, so as not to be suspicious.
Exactly, 100%.
And then the extraction piece. So if somebody finds themselves embroiled in one of these messes, how to get out of it.
Yeah, well, when you find yourself in one of these messes, the best thing, what you really need to do is, at that point in time, you want to let whoever the title company, let a title company know, because we can do these special alerts. And what happens now in the title industry is when a fraud occurs with let's say one title company, they're letting all the title insurance underwriters know, and we're putting a special alert out. And then when that property gets added to the special alert system, that address is flagged, the names of the people are flagged, and now nobody will close on it. Because when a closing goes to a title company, their title insurance company will require them to run them into we call it special alert database. And so that you can prevent another, potential scam happening to somebody who maybe didn't catch it at the listing, side of it.
Great information, Michelle Radie-Coffin. Thanks so much for your time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much.